All right, so we're just going to quickly review the vector math from grade 11, or if you've done it already in grade 12. So vector quantities, first we're going to take care of how, visual representation, how we represent them. And we, as you may recall, we use an arrow. We call this the tip. We call this part the tail. We usually label it, let's say vector A, and we put the arrow on top of the variable to denote that that is a vector. So a vector is represented like that, like A. It has two quantities. One is magnitude, and the other one is some angle, usually, direction. All right, theta A. Of course, if I draw another vector that is like this one, what can I write about these two vectors? If I were to compare them, I would say that A is roughly equal to twice vector B, or I can write B is equal to half of vector A. And this operation, 2 times B, all right, this is a scalar, of course. And that's a vector. So what we've done is we changed the magnitude, if you will, of the vector. This is now it's an operation with vectors, and that is known as multiply by scalar. All right, so far. So to give you an idea of what else can we do? So obviously we need to know about operations with vectors. So vector quantity is a vector. It's a quantity that needs, again, magnitude and direction. So operations with vectors, the first one we already established. There is another one, and that is which we're going to use in this course a lot, and that is adding and subtracting vectors. All right, so let's start with 2. So let's start with the addition, right? So we have a vector A, we want to add it to a vector B, that will give us some result of that. So that's how we write it. Of course, we need to know how these vectors look like. So now we don't have to worry about how we're going to give a direction. So here's vector A, and here's vector B. What we did here, we put them tip to tail method, also known as graphical method. All right. So what we do is we put the two vectors tip of the first one into the tail of the second one, and so on and so forth. We have more. So vector R, let's change the color just so that vector R, let's use red, is this one here. All right. As you can see, we could give to this method another name, and you can see from the shape of that figure, and that is known as triangle method. All right. And how do we subtract vectors? And again, we're just doing a graphical method. We're just seeing how they look like, and then we're going to go into details in a short while. All right. So let's say we have now subtraction. So let's say we want to do A. Say that we have the same vectors, minus B. Let's call this D for difference. All right. So how we can rewrite this, just so it's clear for us, we can write this as A plus minus b, the same as with numbers, right? The opposite of b. Now, what do you think is the opposite of b? Well, if this is vector b, and I'm sure that you've guessed it right by now, this is the opposite. All right. So to cut it short, how do we subtract vectors? Well, we add them, but instead of adding a and b, we add a, and remember b was this one. So instead of using that one, we're going to use the opposite of b. All right. So vector d, what color should we use here? Well, let's use orange. This is the difference of the two vectors. So technically, we're still going to use the triangle method even for this one. So the next step for us now is to see how we get the directions of vectors, what do we use, and then an example, how do we add and subtract them using this method, which is known as graphical method. All right.